Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Darren, and in today's video I want to make a video talking a little bit about the state of rogues in patch 7.5. I was thinking about maybe writing up a whole script and just combine as much footage as I can into the video and just as much information as possible in order to tell you guys exactly what I think the state of rogues will be in 7.5, but I kind of got lazy, so I decided to go with the most frequently asked questions that I get from the live streams and YouTube comments, so then I can simply hit the questions that I get in as the most to give you guys a little bit of my personal opinion of where rogues will be. A lot of these questions are going to be repetitive, a lot of these questions are going to be a little bit weird, but you guys will understand what I mean as I get through it. So let's get into the shit show and start this video. The first question is this: will Assassination suck in PvP with Agonize and Poison gone? My thought process on that is Agonize and Poison was never really used in PvP. There have been some situations where you could use it in 2v2, 3v3 situation, and you could fuck around with it in BGs, but no, it wasn't really a great poison to begin with. In most cases, you either went Exsanguinate when Bleed Spec was viable, and from there, most rogues go Alacrity. With the addition of Toxic Blade instead of Agonize and Poison, now you have a talent that is actually useful in PvP. So, if anything, I think you'll do more damage with Toxic Blade, but Agonize and Poison being gone isn't as big of an issue as a lot of people perceive it to be. Next question: in patch 7.5, which specialization of rogue will be the best? Now, this question comes in forms of PvE and PvP, so I'll just be straight up frank with you guys. I feel with the changes to Assassination, it is difficult to tell whether it will be good or not, but I think it will still be viable. I do think, however, that Subtlety might come out ahead in single target DPS and PvE. Outlaw will always be good in Cleave, so Mythic Plus and AoE in TOS is going to be great. I feel like Outlaw and Subtlety, Outlaw definitely secure, Subtlety might end up being better than single target, and Assassination, if they have a viable bleed build that you can go back to, then I feel like Assassination might be viable, but there's a lot of testing to be done. In PvP, I think all three specializations are great, so if you main Outlaw or Assassination or Subtlety, you'll be doing great. If you're somebody who wants to just have some casual fun in PvP, I would suggest you some Subtlety, learn the basics, learn the rotation, get a few talents, and then you can literally own people in Battlegrounds, which is a heavy deal of fun, to be honest, and I feel like a lot of people will have fun with that kind of a build. But besides that, if you're looking at the best specialization that'll probably push the highest rating, I think if you're somebody who is experienced, a very experienced rogue, then I think a lot of people will be able to take Subtlety and push that to probably the highest limits. Although it shouldn't stop you from playing Assassination or Outlaw, because I feel like those specializations also have a pretty high skill ceiling. It's just you have to have the patience and a good understanding of those specializations in particular to do well at them. So nothing really stops you from doing well PvP on any of the specs. It kind of depends on the personality of the person. And for me, I'm still going to keep playing some Outlaw and maining Outlaw and pushing rating with Outlaw. And next patch is going to facilitate that because it's just a better patch for that kind of a playstyle. Alright, that was a lot. Next question: is Slice and Dice going to be better than Roll the Bones in 7.5? And I gotta admit, I'm kind of tired of Slice and Dice question. I answer it so much, but for the sake of this video, I believe that Slice and Dice is not going to be that great. With some legendaries, some gearing that you will need in order to make your auto attacks a little bit stronger, it depends on the quality of gear and the trinkets that'll come out in the TOS. It is difficult to say whether Slice and Dice will be good or not. The way Blizzard looks at Slice and Dice, they say that they want to make Slice and Dice equal and an alternative to Roll the Bones. The way that Slice and Dice is going to be actually good is if you make Slice and Dice better than Roll the Bones, because it is a talent option. It needs to be better in one way or another. And while a lot of people do want the auto attacks and the energy regen to be the meta, I highly doubt it, because cooldown reduction is one of the most powerful things they've added in the game. Cooldown reduction is actually a really good utility for PvP and PvE. And most players should transition into the cooldown reduction playstyle and cooldown reduction thought process, rather than really wishing for combat rogues to come back, because they're never going to come back, or at least in this expansion. So it's really hard to answer this. Slice and Dice I don't think is going to be good unless you have specific legendaries, specific gear, and specific build, which not a lot of people are going to be able to achieve, because legendaries are RNG and gear depends on how good you are at the game and if you can get into mythic raids. Alright, next question: Is the legendary ring that grants you vigor talent best? Is that going to be best in slot in 725? I tested out the ring and it's not going to be good for any Outlaw players, and I feel like Outlaw is going to be one of those specializations you will need to bring to a raid team. So if you're somebody playing Outlaw, no, I don't think the energy regen of vigor or the extra energy pooling is going to do much for you. However, if you play Assassination Subtlety, that ring might be beneficial. I'm not going to say that that ring is going to be best in slot, and if any specialization might be able to use it in best in slot, might be Subtlety, because of just how much raw damage you can get simply out of your finishers. The energy conversion into damage is fairly straightforward, and I think with Subtlety, it actually might be very, very extremely beneficial. But again, it is really difficult to tell. So if you're Assassination or Subtlety and you get this ring, then you actually might be able to get some use out of it. However, if you're an Outlaw Rogue, I doubt that you'll be able to get too much use out of that ring as a legendary. Alright, next question. Is sub getting nerfed in 725? And I remember, oh my god, this is making me laugh, but I remember people did talk about how, oh, Subtlety is getting nerfed in 725, and I didn't understand what people were talking about. Subtlety is going through some changes, and the specialization is getting more straightforward. Instead of talking about having Shadow Strike or a backstab granting a ton of common points, instead they just change it so you just have flat damage increases. I feel like Subtlety is going to get a massive buff in terms of how they restructured the specialization, how they changed up the symbols of death mechanic. I feel like they are actually making the specialization better. So no, I don't think it'll be nerfed in 725, at least for PvP. For PvE, it's hard to tell because I don't really play Subtlety for PvE that much. Never really have. I doubt that I will in the next patch. But in PvP, they're definitely going to be a lot stronger. They're going to be like that easy specialization. Oh, not easy specialization, because everybody gets triggered if I use the word easy. But if you understand the basics of Subtlety, PvP, and your energy management and common point resource management is fairly decent, then I think as a Subtlety Rogue, you'll actually be able to take full advantage of the buffs that you have, the abilities that you get to play with, and you'll be able to go around in random battlegrounds, casually just one-shotting people left and right, line up some massive DFAs, and doing a ton of damage, and just having some fun with it. In PvP, like high-rated PvP, I think it'll be a strong specialization because of the damage increases, and in PvE it's hard to tell, but in PvP it's going to be pretty freaking great. Next question, and I get this one a lot actually. Will Outlaw Rogue suck in 725? The short answer, no. I think they're actually going to be better. The long answer is you'll have cooldown reduction on you at all times, good for PvE and PvP. You will have a little bit more buffs towards your roll mechanic, so the kind of buffs that you get are going to be a little bit stronger, and your energy regeneration is going to be more consistent. So for PvE and PvP, the specialization is going to be a lot better, a lot more useful, a lot more versatile, and it's going to be less RNG related. You're not going to have to be, rolling the bones until you get true bearing, and the only time you can actually do anything is when you have true bearing available. No, you'll actually be able to play the game normally and deal damage to, I guess, a lot of classes and be decently viable. I think that Outlaw will be in a good spot in the next patch. Next question. Will Assassination still be viable in 725? And I told you guys, these questions are going to get weird. Some of them are going to get repetitive, but these are the frequently asked questions that I got. Assassination, yes, I think it will still be viable in 725. For PvE, I think it will find a way. It might have to go back to a bleed build with versatility gear, so a lot of Outlaw Rogues will be able to swap to Assassination because of all the versatility that they've been stacking. And some Assassination Rogues will be able to replace the gear with a TOS equivalent with versatility as a main stat or whatnot. But I feel like Assassination will still maintain its viability for PvE in 725. It might be one of the better specializations for Mythic Plus, and I feel like with all the changes coming out, they might even be able to go for something more of AoE-based specialization of sorts, maybe. So then they're more viable in terms of AoE situations. I feel like the change to their Agonizing Poison is going to make the spec take a step back a little bit, not be at the very front lines, but I feel that there's plenty of Assassination Rogues that will engineer themselves a new build and a new way of playstyle in order to get their damage back up to where it was, or at least close to where it was. And in PvP, I think that will be a lot better because Toxic Blade is going to be nuts in the patch 725, especially in 2v2 arenas and 3v3 arenas, and really any PvP situation due to its short cooldown and poison-based playstyle, which is very helpful for PvP because of the stat templates. So I think Assassination will still be viable, and if you're somebody who mains Assassination for both PvE and PvP, I still think that you guys will be able to keep playing the spec you enjoy. You might have to change your build a little bit, might have to change your talents a little bit, and maybe even the mindset of your rotation, but I think it'll still be a viable spec. Next question, will Burst of Speed come back in 7.2.5? That is actually one of the frequently asked questions that I get. I'm not even kidding. No, I don't think Burst of Speed will come back. I feel like that ability is not necessary in Legion, and if you believe that rogues need a little bit more mobility, I feel like at that point, you might as well just try playing a little bit of a Demon Hunter. Rogues are in a good spot in terms of mobility. Subtlety is losing some mobility. Assassination has the Crimson Vial defensives in terms of, for the sake of mobility as a replacement. We also get in shift for the slow effect, so we can basically be the same speed as everybody else once all slows are up. And maneuverability still is a good talent because we can use it in PvP, and basically forces you to not play like an idiot and just blow it whenever you need to, or whenever you want to, but rather only whenever you need to. I feel like rogues have all the mobility you need. It's all about learning how to use the mobility properly. And no, Burst of Speed will be a terrible idea. Will combat be back in 7.2.5? So are you saying that will they basically trash can Outlaw after working on the fucking spec for so goddamn long, after designing it and shit, and then just to bring back Combat Rogue? No, I hope they don't bring Combat Rogue anytime soon, at least not this patch whatsoever. While I do like the idea of a Combat Rogue, and I did enjoy its playstyle, I didn't really like the class fantasy because it didn't really have any class fantasy whatsoever. It was a specialization that was basically the rogue spec that had slice and dice and not a backstab. You weren't stealth specific, you weren't really poison specific, you were just auto attack specific. I don't think that was enough, and while I liked it during Warlord's General with how strong it was on sustained damage and the buff mechanic, I thought the red buff mechanic was very solid and well done. I do prefer Outlaw, and I think Outlaw has a little bit more of a, while it has the RNG aspects to it in 7.2.5, they're fixing a lot of it, but it has a little bit more of a skill cap. There's a lot more thinking that goes on instead of just, you know, spamming Sinister Strike until red buff, kidney, killing spree. Like, that was just, it was kind of brain dead. While I enjoyed the playstyle because it is a spec that I enjoyed, it was pretty brain dead, and I hope combat does not come back anytime soon, to be honest. Next question, is Assassination Toxic Blade good enough for PvP? Yeah, I think it's great because right now all you have is Alacrity, which isn't all that great. Then we have Exsanguinate, which not as good as it used to be. So then Toxic Blade comes in, and now it's actually a viable talent on a fairly short cooldown, generates decent damage, generates a common point, fairly low in terms of energy, pretty freaking great overall. Yeah, I think it's going to be a lot better for PvP, and I'm going to enjoy it, and I think anybody who plays Assassination, after giving it a few attempts, is probably going to enjoy it as well. Okay, I think this is the last question. Will a Bleeds spec work for Assassination in 7.2.5? Will a bleed based specialization? Will bleeds might come back with the patch 7.2.5 coming out, and Agnes Poison getting removed. For PvE, bleed spec might come back. For PvP, I highly doubt it because they're not really doing anything to facilitate for a bleed spec. They're not buffing hemorrhage. They really don't really buff Exsanguinate. They basically threw down, it slapped on a 20, or if not 25 right now, 25 energy cost increase for it, and increase the speed at which bleeds tick instead of 100 to 150. If Exsanguinate increased your bleed damage while the ticks are happening, then I think it'd be worth. But for PvP, I don't think it's going to be that great. I think for PvP, Toxic Blade is going to be the playstyle. In PvE, however, a bleed specialization with all versatility gear, or as much versatility as possible, might actually be very, very viable. Because then all versatility and mastery will allow you to split a bit of damage sources. You'll have bleeds, you'll have your poisons, you'll have your auto attacks, and versatility will be able to facilitate the bleeds and the auto attacks, and as well as poison damage. So maybe it'll come back, but not for PvP. Unless some kind of a crazy build comes out, which if one does come out, then I'll definitely check it out, review it, and showcase you guys exactly what it's all about. But we can't really say anything like that until patch 7.2.5 comes out. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. This has been everything from me, covering all of you guys' frequently asked questions. If you guys have any more questions, please feel free to ask them in this video, and I might make a, I guess, continuation video answer more frequently asked questions, or I guess just in general more PvP questions, or rogue questions in general for 7.2.5. Overall, I think rogues are going to be great in 7.2.5. I think the buffs we get are buffs in general. For PvE, it might be a little bit not assassination friendly, but it's really hard to tell if that's true or not. I can't really be certain here. But for Outlaw and Subtlety, it's going to be pretty freaking great. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. I'll see you guys in another video.